Question 1. In a complex legal dispute between two businesses, one located in the United States and the other in Canada, the issue of which country's laws apply to the breach of contract must be resolved. The contract contains a choice of law clause specifying that the laws of the United States should govern the agreement. However, the Canadian business argues that enforcing the U.S. law would violate Canadian public policy. Considering the principles of conflict of laws and the recognition of foreign law, how should the court approach this issue? A. The court must enforce the U.S. choice of law clause as it is enforceable under international comity, regardless of any public policy concerns raised by the Canadian business. B. The court must reject the U.S. choice of law clause due to the Canadian business's public policy argument, prioritizing Canadian public policy over the contractual agreement. C. The court must consider the public policy exception, and if the application of U.S. law would be egregiously contrary to Canadian public policy, it may refuse to enforce the clause. D. The court should allow the Canadian business to invalidate the choice of law clause on the grounds of reciprocity, assuming Canada has an established policy against enforcing foreign choice of law clauses. Answer. C. The court must consider the public policy exception, and if the application of U.S. law would be egregiously contrary to Canadian public policy, it may refuse to enforce the clause. Explanation. The court will first examine the choice of law clause in the contract, recognizing its importance under conflict of laws principles as it reflects the parties' intent. However, the public policy exception must be considered if the application of the chosen law, U.S. law in this case, would violate the fundamental legal principles of the forum country Canada. This aligns with the renvoi principle, where courts may consider whether foreign law conflicts with the country's public policies. In such cases, the court will look into whether enforcing the foreign law would lead to results that are intolerable or egregiously harmful to Canadian interests. This principle is designed to ensure that international agreements respect sovereignty, particularly when enforcement would contravene local laws or morals. The other options do not sufficiently address the balance between enforcement of choice of law clauses and the need to respect public policy considerations. Question 2. While analyzing the root causes of a cross-border family dispute involving custody of a child, two legal systems are in conflict. The parents are from different countries, with one parent residing in the US and the other in Germany. Both countries claim jurisdiction over the custody dispute, citing their respective laws as applicable. Which principle should the court apply to determine the proper jurisdiction and applicable law in this case? A. The court must apply the lex loci celebrationis rule, determining jurisdiction based on the place of marriage of the parents, as that is the key event related to the custody dispute. B. The court should apply the lex loci domicilii rule, as custody disputes are governed by the law of the child's habitual residence, taking precedence over other factors such as nationality. C. The court must apply the lex loci delicti rule, which refers to the law of the place where the alleged wrongdoing occurred, in this case focusing on the location of the alleged custody violation. D. The court must prioritize forum non-convenience, dismissing jurisdiction entirely if it determines that neither of the countries has a sufficient connection to the dispute. Answer. B. The court should apply the lex loci domicilii rule, as custody disputes are governed by the law of the child's habitual residence, taking precedence over other factors such as nationality. Explanation. In cross-border family law disputes, the most significant factor in determining jurisdiction and applicable law is the lex loci domicilii principle, which refers to the law of the child's habitual residence. This principle is established under both international conventions, such as the Hague Convention on the Civil Aspects of International Child Abduction, and domestic laws that prioritize the child's best interests. The habitual residence is considered the place where the child has lived for a significant period, and it is the jurisdiction that has the closest connection to the case. The court will thus focus on this jurisdiction for making decisions about custody rather than nationality or a marriage, which is the focus of lex loci celebrationis. While forum non-conveniens may be invoked in some cases to dismiss jurisdiction, it is not the first step in determining the applicable law for custody disputes. Question 3. During a critical transition period where existing processes are being restructured within a multinational company, two countries claim jurisdiction over a tortious claim involving negligence in product manufacturing that resulted in harm to consumers. The harm occurred in country A, while the company responsible for the negligence is based in country B. Which approach should the court take to determine the applicable law for this tort? Considering the conflict of laws principles, A. The court should apply the lex loci contractus rule as the dispute involves negligence in the manufacturing process, which is closely tied to the contractual relationships between the parties. B. The court should apply the lex loci delicti rule, determining the applicable law based on the place where the tort negligence occurred, which in this case is country A. C. The court must apply the most significant relationship approach, focusing on jurisdiction that has the most significant relationship to the tortious act, considering factors such as the location of the parties and the place of injury. D. The court should apply the renvoi principle and refer to both country and country B's laws to determine the applicable law, disregarding the place of injury. Answer. C. The court must apply the most significant relationship approach, focusing on the jurisdiction that has the most significant relationship to the tortious act, considering factors such as the location of the parties and the place of injury. Explanation. In conflicts of laws, tort claims such as negligence are typically governed by the lex loci delicti rule, which applies the law of the place where the tort occurred, country in this case. However, the significant relationship approach, which is part of modern conflict of laws analysis, requires the court to consider a broader set of factors, including the place where the tort occurred, the residence or business location of the parties, and where the impact of the negligence was most significantly felt. This approach is part of the modern rule in conflict of laws and offers flexibility in ensuring fairness in cases with complex international elements. The principle, which refers to the referral of law between jurisdictions, is not commonly applied in tort cases unless there's a complex issue about which jurisdiction should apply. Question 4. In a complex international dispute involving a breach of contract, two parties from different countries, one from the US and the other from France, are engaged in litigation regarding commercial agreement. The contract includes choice of law clause that selects US law as the governing law. However, the French party argues that the application of US law in this dispute would contravene French public policy, especially with respect to consumer protection laws. Given the principles of conflict of laws, how should the court address the situation? A. The court should prioritize the enforceability of the choice of law clause as it reflects the parties' intentions and enforce US law disregarding the French public policy argument. B. The court must examine whether applying US law would violate French public policy and, if so, may refuse to enforce the choice of law clause. C. The court should enforce the contract based on the principle of comity as long as there is no clear violation of the US public policy in applying French law. D. The court should reject the choice of law clause entirely and apply the law of the country where the contract was executed, irrespective of the parties' intentions. Answer. B. The court must examine whether applying US law would violate French public policy and, if so, it may refuse to enforce the choice of law clause. Explanation. When a choice of law clause is included in a contract, it generally reflects the parties' intent and courts often enforce it. However, international conflict of laws principles provide exceptions, especially when enforcing foreign law would violate fundamental public policies of the forum country. The public policy exception allows court refuse to apply foreign law when it conflicts with the forum's core principles. In this case, the French party's concern about consumer protection laws could justify invoking the exception. Courts will analyze whether enforcing US law would result in outcomes that contravene France's basic legal standards, such as those protecting consumers from unfair business practices. The other options fail to address the important consideration of public policy exceptions in conflict of laws. Question 5. While analyzing the root causes of sequential problems in an international tort case, a US company is being sued in France for environmental damage caused by its operations in Germany. The injury occurred in Germany, but the company has a significant presence in the US and in France. Which of the following approaches should the court use to determine the applicable law in this case, considering the cross-border nature of the dispute? A. The court should apply lex loci contractus, as the case involves environmental damage, which is often tied to contractual agreements between the parties. B. The court should apply lex loci delicti, determining the law based on the location of the tort, which occurred in Germany. C. The court must apply the most significant relationship approach, analyzing the country's connections to the dispute, including the location of the injury, the presence, parties, and the environmental laws of the relevant jurisdictions. D. The court should apply the law of the U.S., given the company's significant presence there even though the injury occurred in Germany. Answer: C. The court must apply the most significant relationship approach, analyzing the country's connections to the dispute, including the location of the injury, the presence of the parties, and the environmental laws of the relevant jurisdictions. Explanation: in cross-border tort cases, the traditional rule is to apply lex loci delicti, which refers to the law of the place where the tort occurred, in this case Germany. However, in complex international disputes, especially those involving multiple jurisdictions, the most significant relationship approach may be more appropriate. This approach focuses on the jurisdictions with the strongest connections to the dispute, considering factors such as where the injury occurred, where the parties are located, and the specific laws of each jurisdiction, especially when it comes to specialized areas such as environmental law. This modern conflict of laws approach allows the court to determine the most relevant and appropriate law for the case. The other options focus on outdated or overly narrow approaches, missing the comprehensive analysis needed in such case. Question 6. In a case involving two companies based in different countries, one in Brazil and the other in Japan, the dispute arises over the terms of a contract that includes an arbitration clause. Both companies have agreed to arbitration in a neutral third country. However, the Brazilian company now argues that it should not be bound by the arbitration clause, claiming that enforcement of the clause violates Brazilian public policy regarding arbitration agreements. How should the court proceed in this case? According to conflict of laws principles, A. The court should automatically enforce the arbitration clause, as arbitration agreements are generally upheld under international law, regardless of any domestic public policy concerns. B. The court should examine Brazilian public policy and determine whether enforcing the arbitration clause would violate fundamental principles of Brazilian law before proceeding with arbitration. C. The court should enforce the arbitration clause in accordance with the New York Convention, assuming both countries are parties to the treaty. D. The court should refuse to enforce the arbitration clause, arguing that arbitration in a neutral third country is inappropriate and contrary to Brazilian national interests. Answer: B. The court should examine Brazilian public policy and determine whether enforcing the arbitration clause would violate fundamental principles of Brazilian law before proceeding with arbitration. Explanation: arbitration clauses are commonly upheld in international contracts under principles of international comity and the New York Convention on the Recognition and Enforcement of Foreign Arbitral Awards. However, the public policy exception allows a country to refuse enforcement of arbitration agreements that violate its core legal principles. In this case, the court should first analyze whether enforcing the arbitration clause would be contrary to Brazilian public policy regarding arbitration, which could include issues such as access to justice or the right to a fair trial. This approach ensures that international arbitration respects the sovereignty and fundamental legal principles of each involved. The other options fail to account for the important role of public policy exceptions in conflict of laws. Question 7. In a family law dispute involving two parties from different countries, one from the U.S. and the other from Canada, a child custody case arises. The U.S. party wants to bring the case to a U.S. court, while the Canadian party argues that Canada should have jurisdiction, citing the child's habitual residence in Canada. Which principle of conflict of laws should the court apply to determine the proper jurisdiction for this case? A. The court should apply the lex loci domicilii principle, as custody disputes are generally governed by the law of the child's habitual residence. B. The court should apply the lex loci celebrationis principle, as the place of marriage of the parents will determine the jurisdiction over the custody case. C. The court should apply the forum non conveniens doctrine and dismiss the case, arguing that neither country has a significant connection to dispute. D. The court should apply the most significant relationship approach, considering all factors, including the child's best interests, the legal systems of both countries, and the parents' locations. Answer: A. The court should apply the lex loci domicilii principle, as custody disputes are generally governed by the law of the child's habitual residence. Explanation: in international family law disputes, particularly those involving child custody, the lex loci domicilii rule is the primary principle used to determine jurisdiction. This principle dictates that the jurisdiction with the closest connection to the child's well-being, typically the habitual residence, should handle the custody case. In this scenario, the child's habitual residence is in Canada, so Canadian law would likely govern the dispute. While the most significant relationship approach is sometimes used in complex cases, the lex loci domicilii principle is generally prioritized in child custody matters to ensure the child's interests are at the forefront of the decision. The other options either incorrectly focus irrelevant factors or dismiss jurisdiction altogether. Question 8. When dealing with a complicated international tort case involving product liability, the consumer in country A was injured by a defective product manufactured in country B by a company based in country C. The consumer is seeking damages in country A, but the company claims that the lawsuit should be filed in country C due to its location and the place of business. What is the most appropriate principle the court should apply to where the lawsuit should be heard? A. The court should apply the lex loci delicti rule, as the injury occurred in country A, which would govern the jurisdiction for the case. B. The court should apply the lex loci celebrationis rule, which is irrelevant in this case since no marriage is involved. C. The court should apply the most significant relationship approach considering the place of injury, the location of the manufacturer, and the location of the parties involved. And D. The court should apply forum non-conveniens doctrine to dismiss the case, arguing that the lawsuit should be filed in country C where the company is based. Answer. C. The court should apply the most significant relationship approach considering the place of injury, the location of the manufacturer, and the location of the parties involved. Explanation. In complex international tort cases, particularly those involving product liability, the most significant relationship approach is the most appropriate method for determining jurisdiction. This approach takes into account factors such as where the injury, where the product was manufactured, and where the parties are located. By analyzing the significant relationships between the various jurisdictions involved, the court can determine the most appropriate venue for the lawsuit. In this case, the injury occurred in country A, but the product was manufactured in country B and the company is based in country C. The court would consider all these factors to determine the most appropriate jurisdiction, ensuring and efficiency in the proceedings. The lex loci delicti rule is often used to determine the location of the injury, but it doesn't fully capture the complexities of cross-border product liability cases. Similarly, forum non-conveniens is only applied when the chosen forum is highly inconvenient, which isn't always the case in such well-connected international dispute. Question 9. In the dispute over the enforcement of a foreign judgment, a court in the U.S. is asked to recognize and enforce a judgment from a court in India. The Indian court issued the judgment after a trial in which the U.S. company was not given proper notice of the proceedings. The company now argues that recognizing and enforcing the Indian judgment in the U.S. would violate U.S. public policy, particularly the due process right of the company. How should the U.S. court address this issue? A. The court should enforce the Indian judgment without considering the due process concerns, as the judgment is foreign and must be respected under the principle of comity. B. The court should refuse to enforce the Indian judgment if it finds that the U.S. company was not provided proper notice, as this would violate the company's due process rights under the U.S. Constitution. C. The court should balance the interest of enforcing the foreign judgment with the need to protect the due process rights of the company, allowing for partial enforcement if necessary. D. The court should apply the forum non-conveniens doctrine and dismiss the case, ruling that the Indian court was the proper forum for the dispute. Answer. B. The court should refuse to enforce the Indian judgment if it finds that the U.S. company was not provided proper notice, as this would violate the company's due process rights under the U.S. Constitution. Explanation. The U.S. court will likely refuse to enforce the Indian judgment if the company was not given proper notice of the proceedings, as this would violate fundamental due process rights guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. The principle of comity encourages respect for foreign judgments, but it is not absolute and must be balanced against concerns of fairness and justice. In this case, the lack of notice means that the company was not afforded fair opportunity to defend itself, which directly conflicts with due process standards. The other options either overlook the importance of due process rights or suggest inappropriate actions, such as dismissing the altogether under forum non-conveniens, which isn't relevant to this issue. Question 10. A contract between two international parties, one based in the US and the other in the UK, includes a dispute resolution clause stating that any dispute shall be resolved through arbitration in Switzerland under Swiss law. However, a dispute arises regarding the interpretation of the contract's terms and one of the parties seeks to have the case litigated in the US courts. How should the court in the US proceed with this dispute based on principles of international commercial arbitration. A. The court should reject the arbitration clause and allow the case to be litigated in the U.S. courts, as arbitration clauses are not enforceable in international contracts. B. The court should enforce the arbitration clause and compel the parties to arbitrate the dispute in Switzerland in accordance with the agreement and the New York Convention. C. The court should allow the case to be heard in the U.S. despite the arbitration clause because the U.S. has a significant interest in resolving the dispute. D. The court should apply forum non-convenience and dismiss the case, arguing that Switzerland is a more convenient forum for the dispute. Answer. B. The court should enforce the arbitration clause and compel the parties to arbitrate the dispute in Switzerland in accordance with the agreement and the New York Convention. Explanation. Arbitration clauses in international contracts are generally enforceable under the New York Convention on the Recognition and Enforcement of Foreign Arbitral Awards. The U.S. courts will typically honor the parties' agreement to resolve disputes through arbitration in a specified location, which in this case is Switzerland. The principle of comity also supports the enforcement of foreign arbitration agreements as long as they do not conflict with public policy. Option A is incorrect because arbitration clauses are enforceable in international contracts. Option C overlooks the parties' contractual agreement and fails to recognize the priority of arbitration. Option D is also incorrect because the case should be arbitrated in the agreed-upon location, Switzerland, not dismissed under forum non-convenience. Question 11. In a situation where formal requirements conflict with practical considerations, a company based in the U.S. enters into a contract with a foreign entity in Germany involving the sale of goods. The contract specifies that any disputes will be resolved under German law and in German courts. However, when a dispute arises regarding the contract terms, the U.S. company wishes to litigate in the U.S. courts, arguing that the practicalities of the situation, G. Location of witnesses, convenience, and cost make it more appropriate. How should the court in the U.S. handle this situation? A. The court should refuse to hear the case as the parties have agreed to German jurisdiction and the principle of comity dictates that foreign agreements must be upheld. B. The court should dismiss the case under forum non-convenience, stating that Germany is the more appropriate jurisdiction given the contractual choice of law clause. C. The court should hear the case because the practical considerations outweigh the contractual choice of law clause. Company should be allowed to litigate in the U.S. D. The court should enforce the contractual choice of law clause and direct the parties to arbitrate the dispute in Germany in line with international conventions on dispute resolution. Answer. A. The court should refuse to hear the case as the parties have agreed to German jurisdiction and the principle of comity dictates that foreign agreements must be upheld. Explanation. In this case, the contract clearly specifies that disputes will be resolved under German law and in German courts. The U.S. court is likely to respect this contractual choice based on the principle of comity, which encourages deference to the decisions and agreements of foreign jurisdictions unless there is a compelling reason not to. Forum non-convenience may be considered, but the choice of law clause in this case strongly supports Germany as the appropriate jurisdiction. Although practical considerations such as convenience and cost may be relevant, they are unlikely to override the parties' agreed upon forum, as the principle of party autonomy in contract law generally prevails. Question 12. During a comprehensive review of a process that needs improvement, a court in the U.S. is asked to enforce a foreign arbitral award from a dispute between parties in Brazil and the U.S. The U.S. company argues that the arbitral award should not be enforced because it violates U.S. public policy, specifically with regard to labor laws. How should the U.S. court address this issue? A. The court should enforce the arbitral award because the New York Convention requires the recognition of foreign arbitral awards regardless of any conflict with U.S. public policy. B. The court should refuse to enforce the arbitral award if it finds that enforcing it would violate U.S. public policy, specifically concerning labor laws, under the public policy exception. C. The court should apply the forum non-convenience doctrine to dismiss the case, arguing that the dispute should have been resolved in Brazil. D. The court should partially enforce the arbitral award, disregarding the public policy issue, and allow enforcement of the portions of the award that do not involve labor laws. Answer. B. The court should refuse to enforce the arbitral award if it finds that enforcing it would violate U.S. public policy, specifically concerning labor laws, under the public policy exception. Explanation. Under the New York Convention, U.S. courts are generally required to recognize and enforce foreign arbitral awards, but there is a public policy exception that allows a court to refuse enforcement if the award violates fundamental principles of U.S. law, including public policy concerns. In this case, if the arbitral award conflicts with U.S. labor laws or other constitutional principles, the U.S. court may refuse to enforce it, as doing so would undermine public policy. This exception is narrowly applied and focuses on ensuring that foreign arbitral awards do not contradict fundamental national interests. Question 13. While investigating a complicated issue between different jurisdictions, a U.S. court is asked to decide which law should apply to a tort case involving a U.S. company and a foreign party. The tort occurred in country A, but the product involved was manufactured in country B, and the foreign party resides in country C. The U.S. company argues that the law of country A should apply because the injury occurred there, but the foreign party argues that the law of country C should apply because they are a resident of that country. How should the court resolve the issue? A. The court should apply the law of country A, as the injury occurred there following the principle of lex loci delicti. B. The court should apply the law of country C, as the foreign party is a resident there and their domicile is a key factor in determining the applicable law. C. The court should apply the law of country B, as the product was manufactured there, and this should be the most significant factor in determining the applicable law. D. The court apply the most significant relationship approach, considering the place of the injury, the location of the product's manufacture, and the residence of the parties. Answer. D. The court should apply the most significant relationship approach, considering the place of the injury, the location of the product's manufacture, and the residence of the parties. Explanation. The U.S. court should apply the most significant relationship approach, which is a modern method of determining the applicable law in conflict of laws cases. This approach looks beyond the traditional rule of lex loci delicti, the law of the place of the injury, and considers all relevant factors, including the place of the injury, the location of the product's manufacture, and the residence of the parties. By examining the significant relationships between these elements, court can determine which jurisdiction's law is most appropriate for resolving the tort dispute. The traditional lex loci delicti rule is not sufficient in complex, multi-jurisdictional cases like this one, where multiple factors influence the outcome. Question 14. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges arise in a commercial dispute, a U.S. company is attempting to enforce a foreign judgment from a court in Argentina. The judgment involves a breach of contract claim against a local Argentinian company. The U.S. company argues that the Argentine judgment should be recognized and enforced in the U.S. What factors should the U.S. court consider in determining whether to enforce the foreign judgment? A. The U.S. court should enforce the foreign judgment automatically, as there is no need to consider the facts of the case once the judgment is rendered by a foreign court. B. The U.S. court should enforce the foreign judgment only if the parties were properly notified of the proceedings and the foreign court had jurisdiction over the dispute. C. The U.S. court should enforce the judgment only if Argentina has a reciprocal treaty with the U.S. that requires such enforcement. D. The U.S. court should refuse to enforce the foreign judgment if it finds that enforcing it would be detrimental to U.S. public policy, even if the foreign court had proper jurisdiction. Answer. B. The U.S. court should enforce the foreign judgment only if the parties were properly notified of the proceedings and the foreign court had jurisdiction over the dispute. Explanation. In determining whether to enforce a foreign judgment, U.S. courts typically consider several factors, including whether the foreign court had proper jurisdiction over the dispute and whether the parties were given adequate notice of the proceedings. The comity principle encourages the recognition of foreign judgments, but this is conditional on the fairness of the foreign legal process. If the U.S. company was not properly notified, or if the Argentine court lacked jurisdiction over the dispute, the judgment may not be enforceable in the U.S. Additionally, while reciprocal treaties, option C, may influence enforcement, they are not a requirement in all cases. Question 15. While managing a hybrid approach where timing issues complicate the resolution of a contract dispute, a U.S. court is asked to decide which law applies to a contract formed between parties in the U.S. and Japan. The contract specifies that any dispute will be resolved under Japanese law, but one party seeks to have the dispute resolved under U.S. law due to the nature of the breach. How should the court address the situation? A. The court should enforce the choice of law clause and apply Japanese law as it was agreed upon by the parties at the time of contracting. B. The court should apply U.S. law because the breach occurred in the U.S. and the law of the location of the breach takes precedence over the choice of law clause. C. The court should consider the most significant relationship approach and decide based on the location of the breach and the places of business of the parties. D. The court should ignore the choice of law clause and apply the law of the forum, which in this case is the U.S. And so A. The court should enforce the choice of law clause and apply Japanese law as it was agreed upon by the parties at the time of contracting. Explanation. Under the principle of party autonomy in contract law, the U.S. court will typically enforce the choice of law clause agreed upon by the parties, even if the breach occurred in the U.S. This clause reflects the parties' intent at the time of contracting, and the court should honor that agreement. Question 16. In the situation where resource allocation becomes a critical issue, a multinational corporation based in the U.S. is managing a project that involves operations in both the U.S. and China. The project has been delayed due to resource shortages, and the company faces difficulty deciding whether to allocate additional resources to its U.S. division or to the Chinese operations, given that both are critical to the overall success of the project. How should the company proceed to address this issue? A. The company should prioritize the U.S. operations as the company is based in the U.S. and should prioritize its home market. B. The company should prioritize the Chinese operations as China offers a larger market and more opportunities for long-term growth. C. The company should allocate resources equally between both operations to ensure that neither side is neglected. D. The company should assess the specific needs and potential impact of each operation and allocate resources accordingly based on a cost-benefit and strategic priorities. Answer. D. The company should assess the specific needs and potential impact of each operation and allocate resources accordingly based on a cost-benefit analysis and strategic priorities. Explanation. The company faces a complex decision in allocating limited resources between two key operations. To make the best decision, the company should conduct a thorough analysis of both the U.S. and Chinese operations, considering factors like the financial impact, strategic value, and urgency of each side. A cost-benefit analysis would help the company determine which operation has the highest return on investment or which is more critical for the long-term success of the project. This approach ensures that resources are used efficiently, taking into account both short-term and long-term goals, rather than simply favoring one location over another. Question 17. In an environment where different components must interact effectively, a U.S.-based tech company is launching a new software platform. The platform must integrate seamlessly with existing systems in both the U.S. and Europe. However, there are concerns about data privacy laws in the EU and how they will affect the platform's design. What steps should the company take to ensure compliance and successful integration? A. The company should prioritize U.S. regulations and build the platform based on those laws, as they are less restrictive than EU laws. B. The company should design the platform to meet both U.S. and EU privacy laws, ensuring it complies with the General Data Protection Regulation (GDPR) and other relevant regulations in both jurisdictions. C. The company should launch the platform only in the U.S. and delay its European launch until the data privacy issues are resolved. D. The company should focus on getting legal approval in Europe before launching in the U.S. to avoid potential legal challenges down the line. Answer. B. The company should design the platform to meet both U.S. and EU privacy laws, ensuring it complies with the General Data Protection Regulation (GDPR) and other relevant regulations in both jurisdictions. Explanation. In this scenario, the company must ensure that its software platform complies with both U.S. and EU privacy laws, especially DDR, which imposes strict requirements on the collection and use of personal data. By designing the platform to meet the legal requirements of both regions, the company ensures that it is not exposed to legal risks in either jurisdiction. This may involve adopting practices such as data encryption, transparent data usage policies, and secure data storage, ensuring that the platform remains compliant across borders. Focusing on both U.S. and EU regulations simultaneously ensures a seamless global integration while mitigating the risk of non-compliance. Question 18. During a critical transition period where existing processes are being restructured, a global logistics company in the U.S. is updating its supply chain management system. The company faces issues with aligning its existing network of suppliers and distributors across various countries, each with its own regulatory framework. How should the company proceed with this restructuring to maintain efficiency and compliance? A. The company should implement a uniform system across all countries, disregarding local regulations to ensure standardization and efficiency. B. The company should prioritize the most critical countries and adapt the system to their local regulations first, gradually expanding to others. C. The company should create country-specific systems to comply with each country's regulations, even if it creates inefficiencies in the supply chain. Company should create a hybrid system that accommodates the different regulatory frameworks of each country while maintaining an overall standard for operational efficiency. Answer: D. The company should create a hybrid system that accommodates the different regulatory frameworks of each country while maintaining an overall standard for operational efficiency. Explanation: given the global nature of the company's operations, it is essential to balance efficiency with compliance. The best approach would be to create a hybrid system that can be customized to meet the specific regulatory requirements of each country while still to global operational standard. This allows the company to maintain efficiency across its supply chain while avoiding legal risks associated with non-compliance. The hybrid system should include flexible software platforms, processes, and documentation that can accommodate various regulatory frameworks without sacrificing overall operational efficiency. Question 19. While managing a hybrid approach where timing issues complicate the resolution of a contract dispute, an international construction company faces delays in completing a project due to issues with its foreign suppliers. The contract with the suppliers contains a clause specifying that disputes will be resolved in a neutral third country. However, the company is considering resolving the dispute in its home country due to the urgent situation. How should the company address this issue? A. The company should immediately seek resolution in its home country, arguing that the urgency of the situation overrides the contract's dispute resolution clause. B. The company should honor the contract's dispute resolution clause and proceed with arbitration in the neutral third country as stipulated in the contract. C. The company should ignore the contract clause and unilaterally resolve the dispute through the local courts, assuming that the foreign supplier will comply. D. The company should negotiate with the foreign suppliers to amend the contract's dispute resolution clause, allowing the dispute to be resolved in the company's home country. Answer: B. The company should honor the contract's dispute resolution clause and proceed with arbitration in the neutral third country as stipulated in the contract. Explanation: in contract law, parties are generally bound by the terms of the contract they have signed, including the dispute resolution clause. Even though the company may feel that resolving the dispute in its home country is more convenient or urgent, the contract's dispute resolution clause has been agreed upon by both parties and must be respected. The court or arbitrator in the neutral third country will likely have jurisdiction over the dispute, and attempting to bypass this clause could result in the company facing legal challenges for breaching the contract. Upholding the agreed upon ensures legal compliance and helps preserve the integrity of international business agreements. Question 20. In a case where multiple parties have different objectives, a U.S. corporation is engaged in a joint venture with companies from Japan and Germany. The joint venture agreement specifies that disputes will be resolved through arbitration in a neutral location, but the parties have different views on how the arbitration should proceed. How should the U.S. corporation navigate this situation? A. The U.S. corporation should take the lead and dictate the terms of the arbitration, as it has the most experience in international arbitration. B. The U.S. corporation should suggest a neutral, mutually acceptable location for arbitration and seek agreement from all parties involved. C. The U.S. corporation should unilaterally choose a location for arbitration and force the other parties to comply. D. The U.S. corporation should refuse to participate in arbitration unless the location is decided by the home country's courts. Answer: B. The U.S. corporation should suggest a neutral, mutually acceptable location for arbitration and seek agreement from all parties involved. Explanation: in international joint ventures, the goal should be to maintain positive working relationships and avoid conflict between parties. The arbitration location is a critical decision, and the best course of action is for the U.S. corporation to suggest a neutral, mutually agreeable location that satisfies the interests of all parties involved. This ensures fairness and allows the arbitration process to proceed smoothly. By collaborating with the other parties and seeking consensus, the U.S. corporation can help foster a spirit of cooperation and avoid unnecessary escalation of the dispute. Question 21. During the introduction of new methods where coordination across various departments is crucial, a large pharmaceutical company in the U.S. is implementing a new clinical trial process. The new method involves collaboration between research, regulatory, and legal departments, each with different priorities and timelines. How should the company manage the implementation of this new process? A. The company should allow each department to work independently and coordinate only when absolutely necessary. B. The company should establish a cross-departmental team to oversee the process and ensure coordination between all departments involved. C. The company should prioritize the regulatory department's timeline and allow the other departments to adjust to it. D. The company should implement rigid top-down management structure to ensure all departments follow the same procedures and timeline. Answer. B. The company should establish a cross-departmental team to oversee the process and ensure coordination between all departments involved. Explanation. Effective coordination across departments is crucial when implementing a new process, especially in a complex and regulated environment like clinical trials. Establishing a cross-departmental team allows for better communication and alignment of goals, ensuring that all departments will together towards a common objective. This team can address potential conflicts, ensure that timelines are met, and provide a forum for resolving any issues that arise during the implementation process. A collaborative approach is essential for successful integration of new methods, particularly in industries with stringent regulatory requirements like pharmaceuticals. Question 22. When scaling up operations that experience significant challenges due to varying demand, a U.S.-based manufacturing company is planning to expand its production facility to meet increasing customer orders. However, the company faces challenges in determining how to balance capacity expansion with the potential for fluctuating demand. How should the company approach this situation? A. The company should expand production capacity significantly, assuming that demand will continue to grow at a steady pace. B. The company should invest in scalable production technology that can be adjusted based on actual demand, minimizing the risk of overcapacity or undercapacity. C. The company should delay expansion until demand stabilizes, even if it results in potential lost business. D. The company should reduce its reliance on customer orders and shift to producing based on forecasted demand without regard for actual orders. Answer. B. The company should invest in scalable production technology that can be adjusted based on actual demand, minimizing the risk of overcapacity or undercapacity. Explanation. When scaling operations, companies should avoid making large, irreversible investments that may not be necessary or might not align with future demand. Investing in scalable production technology allows the company to increase or decrease capacity based on real demand, which reduces the risk of overproducing or underproducing. Scalable technology offers flexibility and ensures that the company can remain responsive to changes in customer demand, enabling more efficient operations. This approach provides a balance between readiness for growth and the ability to adjust when demand fluctuates. Question 23. In a multi-location scenario where consistency requirements across all regions are critical, a U.S. company is managing a global team working on a new software product. Each team in different regions must adhere to the same development guidelines and quality standards, but there are concerns about varying local practices that might affect consistency. How should the company address this issue? A. The company should impose strict central control over all regional teams to ensure uniformity in practices and outputs. B. The company should allow each region to develop its own processes while providing general guidelines, trusting that the regional teams will meet the necessary standards. C. The company should establish a central project management office (PMO) to standardize the process and provide regular oversight across all regions. Ensure consistency. D. The company should focus on creating a set of localized guidelines for each region, acknowledging that regional differences are unavoidable. Answer. C. The company should establish a central project management office (PMO) to standardize the process and provide regular oversight across all regions to ensure consistency. Explanation: in a multi-location scenario where consistency is critical, it is essential to balance local flexibility with the need for standardized practices. A central project management office (PMO) can act as the oversight body, ensuring that all teams adhere to a unified set of development guidelines and quality standards. This central body can coordinate the efforts of the regional teams, monitor progress, and provide support when necessary to keep the project on track. Regular oversight ensures that while regional teams can apply their local expertise, the overall project remains consistent across all locations. Question 24. During a seamless transition where continuity must be maintained between legacy systems and new software, a global healthcare company in the US is upgrading its patient management system. The new software must integrate with the existing legacy systems to ensure continuity of patient care, as any disruption could impact patient safety. What steps should the company take to ensure a smooth transition while minimizing risk? A. The company should implement the new software quickly without much concern for integration to avoid delays. B. The company should conduct a thorough analysis of the legacy system's functionality and carefully plan the integration of the new software in stages with minimal disruption to patient care. C. The company should abandon the legacy system entirely and switch to the new software immediately, disregarding any transitional issues. D. The company should focus only on upgrading the legacy system rather than integrating it with the new software to avoid any complexities. Answer: B. The company should conduct a thorough analysis of the legacy system's functionality and carefully plan the integration of the new software in stages with minimal disruption to patient care. Explanation: in critical industries like healthcare, maintaining continuity during system upgrade is crucial to ensuring the safety and well-being of patients. Smooth transition requires careful planning and integration. The best approach is to thoroughly analyze the system's existing functionality to understand how the new software will interact with it. The company should then implement the upgrade in stages, testing each phase before full deployment to minimize disruption and ensure that patient care continues seamlessly. This method allows the company to manage the risks associated with system changes and safeguard patient safety. Question 25. While analyzing the root causes of sequential problems in a complex logistics network, a U.S. company is facing recurring delays in deliveries to customers in various regions. Each region has unique supply chain conditions, but the delays seem to stem from common issues such as incorrect inventory data, unreliable transportation routes, and communication breakdowns. How should the company address these root causes? A. The company should focus on fixing one region's problems at a time and apply those solutions across other regions. B. The company should implement comprehensive audit of the entire logistics network to identify and address all potential causes of delays in every region simultaneously. C. The company should ignore the regional differences and implement one size-fits-all solution that treats all regions the same. D. The company should only communication breakdowns and assume that the inventory and transportation issues will resolve on their own. Answer: B. The company should implement a comprehensive audit of the entire logistics network to identify and address all potential causes of delays in every region simultaneously. Explanation: when faced with recurring problems across different regions, a comprehensive approach is necessary to tackle the root causes effectively. Conducting a full audit of the logistics network will allow the company to identify not just regional differences, but overarching issues that may be impacting the entire supply chain. Once the root causes, such as incorrect inventory data, unreliable routes, and communication gaps, are identified, the company can develop targeted solutions to address these issues systematically. This approach ensures that all contributing factors are resolved, preventing future delays and improving overall efficiency. Question 26. While investigating a complicated issue between different divisions within a multinational corporation, a situation arises where the marketing division claims that the sales division is not following the agreed-upon product launch schedule. Meanwhile, the sales division insists that the marketing division has not provided the necessary support. What steps should the company take to resolve this internal conflict? A. The company should have both divisions report directly to a higher-level manager to settle the disagreement. B. The company should bring both divisions together in a collaborative meeting to clarify expectations and align goals for future product launches. C. The company should prioritize the marketing division's concerns and impose penalties on the sales division for not adhering to the schedule. D. The company should ignore the conflict and allow divisions to continue working independently without intervention. Answer: B. The company should bring both divisions together in a collaborative meeting to clarify expectations and align goals for future product launches. Explanation: in resolving internal conflicts, collaboration and open communication are key. By bringing both divisions together, the company can facilitate a productive discussion where both sides can present their concerns and clarify expectations. This meeting provides an opportunity for the marketing sales divisions to align their goals, adjust their processes as needed, and establish a clear plan for future product launches. A collaborative approach fosters cooperation and prevents the conflict from escalating, ensuring that both divisions work towards a common objective. Question 27. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges must be balanced, a U.S.-based aerospace company is working on a highly complex project to develop a new aircraft. The project involves various contractors and subcontractors, each responsible for different components of the aircraft. However, coordination issues between contractors are causing delays and impacting the project timeline. How should the company address these coordination challenges? A. The company should assign a single project manager to oversee all contractors and enforce strict deadlines to improve coordination. B. The company should hold regular cross-functional meetings to ensure that all contractors are aligned with the project's goals and timelines. C. The company should delegate the responsibility for coordination to each contractor, allowing them to manage their own timelines without oversight. D. The company should delay the project until the coordination issues are resolved, regardless of the impact on the overall timeline. Answer: B. The company should hold regular cross-functional meetings to ensure that all contractors are aligned with the project's goals and timelines. Explanation: coordination issues between contractors can significantly affect the timeline of complex projects. Regular cross-functional meetings offer an effective way to address these challenges, as they allow all parties involved to discuss their progress, align on goals, and address any potential roadblocks in time. These meetings create an environment of transparency and collaboration, helping to prevent delays and ensuring that all contractors are on the same page. This proactive approach is far more effective than relying on a single project manager or simply delaying the project. Question 20. When dealing with a complex system that shows occasional discrepancies in data, a US-based e-commerce platform is experiencing irregularities in customer order processing, resulting in delays or incorrect shipments. The system logs show no clear patterns, but the discrepancies occur sporadically and are impacting customer satisfaction. What steps should the company take to identify and resolve the underlying issue? A. The company should ignore the discrepancies, assuming they are minor and will resolve themselves over time. B. The company should conduct a detailed analysis of the system logs and customer feedback to identify commonalities or patterns in the discrepancies. C. The company should immediately overhaul the entire system, assuming that the discrepancies are caused by a fundamental flaw. D. The company should focus on fixing individual customer complaints and system issues only if the problem persists. Answer: B. The company should conduct a detailed analysis of the system logs and customer feedback to identify commonalities or patterns in the discrepancies. Explanation: to resolve irregularities in a complex system, it's crucial to first identify any underlying patterns or trends. Conducting detailed analysis of system logs and customer feedback will help the company identify whether certain conditions or processes are leading to the discrepancies. Examining patterns in data, the company can pinpoint the root cause of the issue, whether it's related to software, hardware, or operational processes. Targeted approach like this prevents unnecessary system overhauls and ensures that the solution addresses the actual problem rather than the symptoms. Question 29. In an environment where different components must interact effectively, a large retail company is implementing a new inventory management system. The system is designed to integrate with various components of the company's supply chain, including suppliers, warehouses, and delivery services. However, compatibility issues are arising, leading to delays in inventory updates and order fulfillment. How should the company address these integrations? A. The company should temporarily suspend the use of the new system and continue using the old inventory management system until the issues are resolved. B. The company should assign dedicated team to troubleshoot the integration issues and make adjustments to the system as needed. C. The company should prioritize fixing compatibility issues with the suppliers first, as they are the most critical part of the supply chain. D. The company should focus implementing the new system in only few regions to test its effectiveness before full rollout. Answer: B. The company should assign a dedicated team to troubleshoot the integration issues and make adjustments to the system as needed. Explanation: in cases where a new system is not integrating effectively with existing components, it's important to address the root cause of the compatibility issues rather than reverting to the old system. By assigning dedicated team to troubleshoot and resolve the issues, the company can identify and fix the integration problems that are causing the delays. This approach ensures that the system can work efficiently with all parts of the supply chain, improving inventory updates and order fulfillment. Dedicated team can quickly make adjustments, testing the solutions as they go to minimize disruptions and ensure that the new inventory management system ultimately integrates smoothly with suppliers, warehouses, and delivery services. Question 30. While investigating a complicated issue between different divisions within a multinational corporation, the research and development R&D division claims that the marketing division is not communicating clearly about customer demands, leading to misaligned product development. Meanwhile, the marketing division argues that the R&D team is not responsive to market trends. How should the company address these ongoing challenges? A. The company should replace key leaders in both divisions to bring fresh perspectives to the situation. B. The company should implement a new communication framework that requires regular cross-departmental meetings to ensure alignment between the R&D and marketing teams. C. The company should prioritize the concerns of the R&D division as product development is at the core of the company's success. D. The company should ignore the conflict, allow the divisions to continue working without further involvement. Answer: B. The company should implement a new communication framework that requires regular cross-departmental meetings to ensure alignment between the R&D and marketing teams. Explanation: effective communication between departments is crucial for a successful product development cycle. In this case, both the R&D and marketing divisions have valid concerns about the misalignment of customer demands and product trends. To address the communication challenges, the company should introduce a formal communication framework that encourages collaboration between the two divisions. Regular cross-departmental meetings allow for the exchange of ideas, feedback, and expectations, ensuring that both teams are aligned in their efforts and working towards common goals. This proactive approach fosters transparency and mutual understanding, ultimately improving product development outcomes.